Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Foresight TV. I have Scott Goldberg with Atlas Senior Living with me today. Scott, I'm going to ask you to scoot to your left about 3 inches because now that we're split screen, but that's perfect. So anyway, Scott's I go to so many conferences, and one of the best parts of the conferences is I get to hang out with so many amazing people. The worst part of conferences is that I'll pass somebody in an elevator or on an escalator, and it's like, oh man, I got to sit down with, and you can fill in the blank. Scott's one of those people, so we're remedying that live TV today. I just want to just say thanks a lot for watching. We know that Foresight TV is not for everybody. I actually had somebody publicly hate on me, Scott, this week on LinkedIn or last week on LinkedIn. That was really great. I just wish they had more following so it actually people saw it. But anyway, we're not for everybody because we're really focused on quality and making the people lives better. And we're not afraid to address tough issues. A lot of people don't like that. But anyway, Scott's running an amazing company. We're going to have a great conversation and we'll get into it right after this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. So Scott, let's start with a little bit with who you are and your background and how you came to the senior living thing.
Absolutely. So I'm going to have to make a very long story short. So bear with me. And if I get too long-winded, tell me to get on with it. I was, as I said, very long story short, 14, 15 years ago, I was in the process of selling a business and knew it was going to take a minute, and definitely was not selling it for a number that was going to allow retirement, nor was I wanting to retire. And so I decided to go get my executive MBA at the University of Alabama. And one thing led to another. A guy that was in that class program with me. Quickly, we became fast friends. He was a senior housing operator executive for Brookdale Senior Living at the time. All he's ever done was senior housing operations. He was running the Southeast for Brookdale at the time, and I was trying to be a good student and pay attention. And next thing I know, my business partner, Wyman Hamilton, who I was just mentioning, converted my executive MBA program into Senior Housing 101. And next thing I knew, I kind of had the framework for what I was going to do and kind of blend what I love and what I had been around, which is transactions and the commercial real estate side, with what he was, in my opinion, one of the best and an expert in with senior housing operations. And we had executive MBA projects that were Atlas at the time. Obviously, Atlas wasn't named, but yeah, that's again making that's a question with 15 years of history that I think I just did it in a minute. So
this is really good. So one of the things that there are a couple of things that make you really unique that I'd like to talk about. So the first thing is that you built this company using family and friends as your capital stack rather than chasing more traditional private equity. And the other thing that I find really interesting that's sort of related to that is you're both an owner and an operator. And it tends to be you've got owners and operating companies that are very different. So are you talk to me about that? Are you just smarter, or what's going on here?
Definitely not smarter. I would say we definitely have to work harder to help compensate for that piece. But no, so look, right, wrong, or indifferent, our business thesis was, and what I learned quickly about senior housing, very different than other commercial real estate verticals, is the operations truly are unique. It's hard. It's gratifying, but extremely hard. Creates an unbelievable barrier, you know, to enter. I mean, it really is a unique barrier, the operations. And as I said, our thesis was the only way to truly create that alignment and have that skin in the game and really lean into the operational side and while parlayed with the real estate is to capitalize our own deals. And you know, it was a huge risk because it's hard, and we knew it was going to be extremely slow to scale that business when you're using when you're street fighting for capital, steak dinner capital, country club capital, however anyone wants to describe it. But we felt like for us to really, from an asset management standpoint, for us to blend the real estate with the operations, we felt like those lessons and those experiences of doing it that way, which is it's really turning the funnel upside down, right, was going to equip us and align us for where we were wanting to go and as a company. And we've had Atlas, our Atlas capital stack, we've had Atlas 2.0, we've had Atlas 3.0. We've definitely done recently. Recent is defined as, I'd say, the past 18 months. We did our first 13, 14 years into Atlas. We just did our first deal with private equity. So, over a year ago, but that's been a great experience and it had a purpose. Happy to talk about that if you want me to, and why we kind of made some of those shifts. But yeah, I mean, one thing I'm very proud of is, we built our company. We built our company with the truly aligned, blended capital stack, which is ours and friends and family, with our operations. And I think that is that DNA. It's still there. It's you look at you look at the deals and how you operate things when that was your senior housing upbringing.
So one of the things that, just sort of so much to unpack with that, two things. I struggle a lot, honestly, with the owner entity management company separate, because I think that creates a short-term, everybody has a short-term mindset. And, when I came out of college many, many years ago, I thought I was going to be a real estate mogul. And the way people got started, when they were young, is you go buy a property and you'd cross your fingers that it would break even, knowing that every month you paid down some principal and that over time rents would go up, and over time you build this on this long term and you build this fortune. And there are hundreds of thousands of fortunes that have been built across the country in the real estate world, and we don't seem to be there anymore. And of course, the same thing sort of makes me nervous about private equity, because they typically have a 7 or 8 year time frame, which means maximize margins to be able to sell it. And so how do you manage around that and make sure that you're really looking at long-term success where the residents win?
Great question. And, look, the short answer is there's several short answers. The first short answer is how we've built our business. One of the big benefits when you're syndicating your own capital stack is you get to kind of define what that horizon is going to be. Yeah. And you make sure it's that piece is protected, because at the end of the day, you're underwriting and it's no one can predict the future, cap rates, et cetera. Anyone that says they can, you should run the opposite way. So, I mean, my short answer is that's how we, the vast majority of our portfolio and how we built our business, we underwrote and had our corporate documents reflective of this was the long game. And that was the only way, so we could make good decisions, not based off of the real estate investment, but what's going on in the current market, so we could we could appropriately try to react to that. Now, as I teased earlier, we're now in some deals with private equity. It's been one of the greatest decisions and concepts that we've done. It's allowed us to simplify the cap side of our business, and as we like to say, we're responsible as we scale our business and do what we do on the operational front. We've got to be really good stewards of our time and protect our time. So one of the really big advantages of institutionalizing our capital stack on our past few deals is it did just that, to be very simple. I mean, it gave us a lot of time back that we were spending on the real estate side getting deals done. But to answer your question I answered it on how we preserve and make sure we can go long. With private equity, it's a little different. And, we've had to have some tough conversations to make sure documents were reflective, to make sure vision was reflected, to make sure we were all watching the same movie. And at the end of the day, you have those conversations and you agree and you go from there. Again, I'm not trying to oversimplify it, but I feel like sometimes people are just mad that, there's a mad dash to get deals done and there's a lot at stake. And so people, or that's what they're accustomed, someone in my seat, they're just accustomed to institutional capital and maybe fearful to have those conversations because they're scared, a deal might not get done. I feel like where we've had a little bit of success is we're very upfront about this industry and how you have to make decisions to be flexible, to be long. And, so yeah, that's those are some, again, probably oversimplifying it, and I apologize, but yeah, that's those are some of the things we've done to make sure we're in a position to make best decisions for the community, the residents, the associates, et cetera, while chasing results on the real estate side.
Yeah, I mean, results are clearly important. Talk to me a little bit about more about the specifics of why this new private equity transaction makes so much sense. And I know you've talked in the past a little bit about luxury senior living and how technology can really enable that. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you see technology fitting into all this and what this looks like.
So let me touch on technology.
Yeah, let's do technology so I assume they're tied together with this investment group, or is that not necessarily true?
Not necessarily true.
Okay,
I look
let's
at
do technology.
Not at all. Yeah, I look at technology solely. Look, I mean, I can get it. I mean, yes and no. I mean, being able to report better to your partners in real time definitely has technology undertones. But what I'm excited about technology-wise is more geared towards our operations, and it's as you know just as well as I do, and really not just senior housing. Our whole world seems to be changing, not by the day with technology, but by the minute. I'll highlight some technology that we're using that I'm very bullish on and excited about. But look, technology can also be a handicap as well, right? There's so much technology being thrown our way. All of us as operators get anxiety at some point that we're either not using the right technology, not using the latest and greatest. And then you look up and you've spent a lot of time trying to make sure you're not missing the latest and greatest, or even worse, you look up and you've added all this expense to the communities with all the technology. So I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about that piece first. So it's definitely a new frontier, and it's continuing it's continuing to be on the forefront, and something we've got to manage, something we've got to audit internally, et cetera. But it's amazing. We're leaning into it. We're constantly studying it, constantly trying to keep our network of our counterparts operating small, so we can kind of learn from each other, best practices. But the one, and briefly, the one, and I guess I'm giving Speak To and Amazon a shout out, and they should probably give us a little discount on our fee since we're doing this. But we were one of the first senior housing groups to partner and roll out with, definitely in the Southeast. We were the first. Speak To, which is powered by Amazon Alexa, which it's an Alexa, whatever's in your head, and you're visualizing an Alexa. It's a pod. They're in all the residents' rooms, and it really, it's just like anything else that you're trying to onboard. The communities that lean into it is where you're having obviously the most success. But those communities that have leveraged it and are leaning into it, it really is a piece of technology that's not only benefiting the seniors, but equally important, it's benefiting our associates as well, especially on the clinical side. I was reading an updated report recently internally, and we had concluded that the communities clinically, the community is the care associates on the clinical side that were really leaning into it and leveraging all of its capabilities was saving about 8 hours a week, which is crazy.
Wow. So talk to me a little bit more about how it works. I'll start by saying that I think that voice is one of those, we're starting to embrace AI, and I'm a big, huge fan of AI. I think that voice is one of those things where and not just senior living. I just think technologically we are not using it as much as we should. And frankly, the technology is not there. I want to pick up my phone when I'm driving and be able to say, hey, send Jada, who's producing this show, an email and ask her to reach out to somebody about being a guest on Foresight TV. And I wanted to actually create the email and send it without me having to do anything more. And it's just not there yet. So I'd love to hear about how this is working, because 8 hours a week is a lot.
Yeah. So I'll talk about the clinical side briefly, but the one thing that stands out the most is just the hands-free, and it is working well, the hands-free documentation that you can do is where you would net a lot of that savings and on time. And I mean, it's not just the time, it's the accuracy, it's the blended communication that everybody gets as you have, whether it's a shift change or we're humans, we're not always the greatest of communicators, right? So that consolidated communication through documentation, the fact that it's hands-free and a care associate can walk into Miss Smith's room and with just can document so much verbally is amazing. And then on the other side, the lifestyle side, just all the amenities that go with it. I mean, Miss Smith can wake up and say good morning and learn, hear what the activities are, can hear what's on the breakfast buffet, can hear what's for lunch, can hear what's for dinner, can arrange transportation, can contact concierge. I mean, it goes on and on and on, but it really is great. And then I'll say this too, for our independent living residents that obviously aren't wearing pendants and don't want to wear pendants, they have while they're in their room, they've got access to emergency care if they need to. So it's been great. It really has.
I used to sell emergency call systems when I first came back in the industry. So it's been 15 or 16 years now. But as I look at that part, I mean, it's still in many ways so antiquated. It's not that much different than it was 30 years ago. I mean, I know we've got pennants that you can wear, but they're still ugly and nobody wants to wear them. To me, voice seems like such a natural answer. And you argue, well, what if you can't speak? And it's a fair question, but what if you can't hit your button? I mean, there's always going to be some corner cases that way. So I love hearing that.
Yeah.
So I want to spend a little bit of time. We don't have a huge amount of time, but I want to spend a little bit of time talking about your workplace culture. So I was doing some research on you and Atlas going in, and I came across this post on LinkedIn. What a day when I tell you Atlas is the best company. I mean it wholeheartedly. The culture, the opportunities, the amount of support they give you is unlike anything I've ever experienced in the senior living industry. I'm so proud to be part of this team. I mean, you couldn't hardly get a better endorsement. So just talk to me. That's what I want my team to say about me and my organization. And so talk to me a little bit about how you go about creating that kind of workplace environment.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, Wyman and I are surrounded. I mean, credit goes to everyone that we're surrounded by. We've got great people at the corporate office. We've got great regional teams throughout the Sun Belt that support these communities. And look, I think that we've done a really good job of recruiting and retaining those around us from a regional support standpoint. And just as important, we take a very active role and spend a lot of time making sure that we're getting the right, for example, and specifically, the right captain of the ship at each community, the executive director. I love everybody that we work with, and I know everyone has different roles and they're all important. So I'm not, that's my disclaimer with what I'm about to say, but we go as our executive directors go. There's nothing, not that anyone else is not important. That's not what I'm saying, but there's nothing more important that we do as gatekeepers of the company than make sure we're doing our best and making the greatest effort that we possibly can to recruit and retain quality executive directors. And what we've learned is it takes a lot of time to do that. And we've never, there's not an executive director that I can think of. There might be one or two where just something crazy happened where Wyman and I, one of us, usually both of us, meets face to face, not virtually, meets face to face before we sign off on hiring an executive director. So I think that I give a little bit of credit to that because it gives us an opportunity not to also be part of the process, not just rely on our regional teams and senior and other senior leadership. It allows us to stay involved in that process, but more importantly, it gives us the chance to kind of talk about which was your question. It gives us that time in person, so those executive directors can hear from us our expectations and framework for how we value and view culture. And culture is a word that everybody uses. And quite frankly, I hate using it because it's just so cliche, but you won't know what I'm talking about if I don't use it. But to me, what others define culture is what do we do it's how you make someone feel. It's not what you say, it's what you do. And then it's how you make them feel. And, I'd say that's a huge piece. Look, our philosophy is this is hard stuff. And each community is is its own mini big business, right? And we want to recruit, we want to give a lot of autonomy. No one knows better than what each individual community needs than those at the community.
Yep.
And as as a corporate office, and that corporate office obviously is expanded with regional support. We often think that naturally some probably think that we might know best, or we might need to be involved in this or that, and that's not how we function. We're not perfect. I'm not going to say we always do it that way, but we really believe in support, not dictatorship, and that's how we do it. And we try to find and recruit community managers, not just executive directors, that crave that autonomy. And that's what everybody says is culture, and that's who and what we are.
Yeah, no question. You find a good performing building, with very rare exceptions. Maybe it'll be a market, but mostly in this world, you find a good performing building, you find a great executive director. You find a poor performing building, it's almost always the executive director is the linchpin. No question about that. And I love the talk about autonomy. My friend Kent Mulkey recently published an article on LinkedIn where he talked about executive director burnout, and it got so much traffic, so many likes, so much engagement, so many comments. And I think a big part of fixing that is exactly what you talked about, is that autonomy. So in Senior Housing News, a few months ago, you talked about how you believe the best is yet to come, that the boomers are still aging and moving into the marketplace. And I would love to have you talk a little bit about that. I want to set a little bit more of the stage before I do that. We're about to go into the conference season. Nick starts in a few weeks. And I know that when I get there, and virtually every conference I go to this year, they're going to talk about how we've got this massive unmet need. We're not going to be able to build enough senior living communities, units. I don't believe that's true, by the way. But I just like to have you talk about the future and how you see it.
Yeah, look, I somewhat disagree with you.
Okay, that's okay. I like people disagree with me
on supply chain, supply and demand. I meant, I do think that at what level, I don't, obviously I do not know, but there's definitely gonna be significant impact to inventory. And it's not just, for one or two. I mean, it's crazy, right? You had COVID in 20, you had COVID impact 2020, 2021, which was the first moratorium on shovels.
Yep.
And then you had, in no certain order, you had the cost rise, which extended that moratorium. Yep. And then you had the fallout, right? The debt in the capital markets.
Yep.
And I'm just now, here we are, fast forward, call it 5 years. I'm just now seeing underwriting that supports putting a shovel in the ground responsibly to go do this deal and to go do these deals. And I can tell you right now, there's still not a lot obviously going on with ground up. So I hear you. I respect that, but it's you can't ignore that math exercise. We're getting into we're starting to get into the right side of the curve as boomers are aging the right way. But for the first time ever, no one's been able to get close to building into that. It's basically been a 5-year recess, and I'd call it 6 years, because it's not just coming back obviously with gangbusters. So from a supply standpoint, sometimes you need obviously you need that correction, and I'm not saying I'm pulling for there to be a shortage of housing for seniors, but what happens with that correction, regardless of how impactful it is, it allows us as operators, right, to continue to catch back up to what's been going on with expenses and allows the capital and debt markets to calm, so we can go focus and our energy can be used the best way it can. So that's what I'm excited about. But yeah, I do think I'm not full throttle that there's going to be shortage like some write about, but I'm not on fully on your side either. I think it's interesting.
So first off, I hope I'm wrong on this. And the only reason it concerns me is that as people start thinking, well, the demand's going to be huge, I think that people take their foot off the throttle in terms of how do I create excellence? Well, if I can fill up anything, then it doesn't matter. And and the second thing I would say is I think that there are going to always be companies like yours who are really focused on excellence, and they're going to be, it doesn't really matter because you're going to beat the market no matter what. I've got this list, a long list of questions, and I've just barely moved on to my second page. Unfortunately, we're about out of time, but you you've got you're really focusing on value-based care for 35-year communities. Can you talk to me a little bit about value-based care, which is one of the things I think is really exciting for the industry?
Yeah, I still think it's candidly. And I'll be brief. I mean, we're just now getting going with value-based care. I think we've selected a great partner in Karana to go down this road with. And look, it's not just seniors. I mean, value-based care is needed. It's going to have a huge impact on healthcare. And ask me in a year from now, and I can give you some really good stats on how it's going. But we're really just now into the weeds with it. But
good.
It's been great. It's been great, and the residents have significantly benefited quickly.
Well, we should do this again in 6 months or a year after you're further into it and talk about it, because I think that as we in senior living, particularly assisted living and memory care, start to see ourselves as part of the healthcare system and creating great value, I think operators are better off. I think residents are better off. Families are better off, and healthcare systems are better off. And so I think it's really an exciting time.
Look, the fundamentals are there. It's talking about alignment. I mean, having being judged off of outcomes in a healthcare environment. I mean, there's not a better way of alignment than that. So I'm bullish and I'm optimistic.
Great. So one final lightning question. What's the biggest myth about senior living that needs to be blowing up?
Oof. That's a good question. Are you? I'm trying to figure out what type of audience I want to.
So audience here is sort of going to be CEO and decision makers.
I would say the biggest myth is, look, I'm gonna pick on an easy one because I still get it and it drives me crazy. The misunderstanding of our environment compared to the stigma, and I'm trying to be careful with my words here because I don't want to offend the skilled world. But what we do, hospitality and lifestyle, is my biggest one. I mean, sometimes I feel like we're described as healthcare, and we are. I'd rather be described as healthcare light with a robust, focused, and direction on hospitality. So,
perfect.
That's my biggest one.
Good. Perfect. I wish we had more time. We're past time. Scott, thank you so very much for joining me. Great conversation. Hang on for a minute after we're off there, and let's just do a quick rebrief. And with that, thank you. Jada, thank you so much for producing the show from behind the scenes.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do for the space.